Morning, everyone. This is a short episode this morning, I know, but this is all about how the Liberals only ever answer questions they want to answer. They do not answer questions they don't want to answer. And sometimes, if you ask them a question, they'll hear what you asked, change the question, and answer a different question. And I'm going to show you multiple instances of this. Here's the first. Justin Trudeau won't address new allegations of sexual harassment against former Liberal MP Marwan Tabbara, citing confidentiality. And it's interesting because the confidentiality cited is for a specific case, but the press is asking about more broad topics, such as what about the zero tolerance policy on sexual harassment in the workplace? What about that? Oh, I can't comment. I couldn't possibly answer that question. I don't like it. Come back and try again, maybe tomorrow. And maybe I'll choose you for a question, but maybe I'll blacklist your news organization. I don't know. Who knows? And if I blacklist your news organization, maybe it'll be years in court before you get back to asking questions. And maybe that's exactly what he wanted, right? Okay, here it is. Justin Trudeau says he won't address new allegations of sexual harassment against former Liberal MP Marwan Tabbara. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wouldn't address new allegations that a member of Parliament currently facing serious criminal charges was previously allowed to seek re-election as a Liberal despite a sexual harassment allegation. Okay, here's the thing. The sexual harassment allegation came from between the 2015 and 2019 election from a staffer in his office. So they're not talking about the current situation. They're talking about a past situation. Now, I don't know if the staffer is the house that he was watching. I don't know if it's the same person, but it's interesting that Mr. Trudeau is saying, I couldn't possibly comment on our policy or on the fact that our Green Light Committee greenlit Marwan Tabbara despite knowing and verifying that he was acting in an inappropriate way with members of his staff and had sexual harassment allegations against him. They can't comment on that because, he got arrested on April 10th and they didn't hear about it until last Friday. Right? This is either the government is completely incompetent, either they honestly have no idea how to manage their MPs. I mean, could you imagine if an MP was arrested under Harper? First, he would have been all over it. Second, the press would have been howling about it, right? Oh my goodness. It would have been Harpergate 2.3.0. It would have been insanity. But these Liberals get around it by just saying, we couldn't possibly answer a question we don't like. Sorry about that. No, we're not going to open the House of Commons anytime soon. We don't want to answer questions we don't like. Back to this. Neither Tabbara nor the Guelph Police Service, who laid the charges, said anything about the arrest at the time. Trudeau earlier said he did not know of the charges until the day of the media reports. On Friday, Trudeau did not deny the new allegations reported by CBC that the Liberal Party knew of an earlier allegation of sexual harassment made against Tabbara. Tabbara was approved to seek re-election as a Liberal in 2019 despite the party's internal investigation into allegations of inappropriate touching and unwelcome sexual comments against a female staff member during his initial 2015 election campaign, CBC reported, attributing the information to an anonymous party source. More anonymous Liberals. They just, they don't want to be identified, and I couldn't imagine why. I scroll down a bit. The Liberal probes sustained some of the allegations, but whether Tabbara has faced any consequences is not known, according to the report. Trudeau said he wouldn't discuss specific cases to respect the confidentiality of the process. There we go. There's a little dodge and weave, right? Trudeau's boxing again. Quote, part of the process, and this is the part that always frustrating for media and for many people watching, is that confidentiality is an integral part of the process to protect people coming forward. So the question in my mind is, how does your Green Light Committee greenlight somebody who you've substantiated the charges, or at least substantiated that something happened, and you have a zero tolerance policy? That has nothing to do with Marwan Tabbara. That has everything to do with Liberal standards and Liberal, the ability for them to say what they mean and mean what they say. It goes to credibility, right? It goes to being able to answer a question honestly. Like, hey, what'd you have for lunch today? Lunch is a wonderful meal and everybody eats it. We all require lunch. Thanks for the question. Next question. What did you have, a sandwich or like noodles? What'd you have for lunch? Lunch is a perfect meal for midday. Next question. This is how they do it. And it's just, it's accepted. I'm not entirely sure why this is continued, but this has been how they've governed. This has been the modus operandi. This has been what they do. And I mean, you'll see in the background of this clip here, Marco Mendocino, he's a pro, man. Like he has his talking point and he just runs that line. He doesn't care. And Telford, she's exactly the same, as you'll see soon. But it goes to credibility. If you can't answer a question, who's gonna believe you, right? If you can't answer why your Greenlight Committee greenlit this candidate despite all of these red flags that are clear and obvious to us now, and you don't want to answer because of the confidentiality of the process, how credible are you? Come on, right? Frustrating for the press. Get real, Justin. Back to this quote. I will also need to respect the confidentiality of everyone involved in this case and cannot comment further other than to empathize, as I always have, that we take every single case extremely seriously. Yeah, sure. Extremely seriously enough to let him run in a re-election campaign despite knowing about it all, right? And if it's the same person, well, madam, I live in Guelph and I'm very interested to talk with you. So I'll disguise your face and everything if you're interested. Let's get together and have a chat, even off camera. Get in touch. Anyway, moving on. Confidentiality of everyone involved, other than emphasize. Back to this. Trudeau said it is disappointing that a sitting MP can be criminally charged without anyone knowing. National Post reported last week that a parliamentary rule on this is not being followed. This is an aside. This isn't going to answering questions. It's just important to note. Quote, in regards to the police proceedings, we've all reflected on the fact that there is apparently a rule in the House of Commons standing order that if a member of Parliament is arrested, the Speaker of the House needs to be officially informed. That rule has apparently not been followed or applied much over the years, Trudeau said. That there's perhaps a reflection that is something we can look into. Yeah, you think? And I told everybody that I would update everybody on what happened at court on Friday. Nothing. Tabbara wasn't even on the line. Here it is. Tabbara's name and case file number were simply included with other criminal charged accused whose cases were postponed until August 28th, in keeping with the court's handling of out-of-custody criminal matters during COVID-19 restrictions. So nothing happened because of the pandemic, and nothing is likely to happen. Here is an example of senators not answering questions they don't want to answer, and he just says, I'm not going to answer this because I'm not going to answer this. It's not worthy to be answered. And I think that it is worthy to be answered. And to help us not forget the question, because this stuff is dry, and part of the strategy is that they're long-winded, so you forget what the question is. Here's the question. It's about Huawei and 5G networks. Okay, we're going to listen to the whole 2 minutes. I know. I said it was going to be a short show. I lied. Sorry. Here we go.
My question is for the government leader. Senator Gold, yesterday you admitted that your government is still, and I quote, grappling with the decision of whether to ban Huawei from being part of our 5G network. Of course, we now know they're already part of our 4G network with TELUS network, although we didn't find that out from your government. Senator Gold, our Five Eye allies have made it clear where they stand. What exactly is it that your leader is grappling with? What is so difficult with this decision? Is there an outstanding IOU on this failed bid to get the UN Security Council by your government?
Senator Gold. I'm going to thank you for your question, and I'm going to try to address the question of substance and resist, as I've tried to do in my brief time in this role, getting sidetracked by questions that I think do not merit a response. If the honourable senator has an interest in the answer, I'll proceed. The intelligence agencies, our community securities establishment, and CSIS regularly.
He talks about how they're really looking closely at Huawei, blah, 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 blah. So the question that he deems not worthy of a response is there an outstanding IOU for the Security Council seat? Is that why you're dragging your feet on this decision? Our Five Eyes partners have said what the problems with this are. Why are you not acting, basically? And it's interesting. You know, they could just pick and choose the question. Oh, well, that's racist, sir. I'm not going to answer that. Thank you very much. And everybody's like, oh, right. Good point. Right? Like, no, it's not a good point. No, you're wrong. Here is literally close to 7 minutes, 6 minutes and 46 seconds to be exact because it's on the screen, of Pierre Polievere asking Katie Telford or anybody who's connected with the failed Security Council seat bid, how much did it cost us? And he asks specifically, how much did it cost us in South America? How much did it cost in travel and hospitality services? He asks lots of different ways to try and get to the answer to this question. Miss Telford hears a question, transforms it in her mind, and answers a question that she chooses to answer. And then at 4 minutes, we're gonna watch about a minute at 4 minutes, but we're gonna watch this first. I think she's almost dancing here. This has been nearly 3 minutes of the same type of questioning back and forth. How much money was X? And Katie Telford responds with something like this. Here we go.
How many tax dollars did the government spend for each vote it got?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I think the honourable member doesn't quite understand diplomacy and doesn't understand that Canada engaging in the world means that we make sure that we engage and listen with.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
The question was, how much per vote? How much?
The Honourable Minister.
Again, Madam Speaker, the honourable member could seek to explore how diplomacy works. It's about engaging, it's about communicating, it's about...
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
How much did the government spend trying to win votes in South America, and how many South American votes did it get?
Okay, so you see the examples there. I'll fast forward to 402, 401. We'll go here. This is important. I can't exactly remember why it's important, but it's important. Here we go.
So the question was how much the government spent. We know they splashed money around in all directions in order to win. In addition to throwing away all of Canada's traditional principles, they will not tell us how much they spent on this failed enterprise to lose votes vis-a-vis our last time. We know how much of our moral authority the government squandered. They stood beside the Iranian totalitarian regime in Tehran. They bowed before that regime and apologized to that regime after they shot down a plane killing Canadians. We know this government abandoned Israel, voting against it at the United Nations after only months earlier promising to do the contrary. They refused to list the terrorist Iranian Revolutionary Armed Guard of Canada. They refused to stand up to the dictators around the world and in Asia in order to try and win some votes. They gave up all of this moral authority in exchange for absolutely nothing. It's bad enough when you give up your principles. It is even worse when you give up your principles and lose anyway. Given that massive failure, will the government at least tell Canadian taxpayers how much they squandered on this failed global campaign?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I believe that when Canada provides support to local women's organizations, that is not squandering money. Madam Speaker, I believe that when Canada provides funding for neonatal care in the Palestinian territories, that is not squandered funding. Madam Speaker, I believe that when we are engaging on LGBTQ2 issues, when we are engaging on climate change, when we are engaging on human rights around the world, that is not squandering Canadian resources, Madam Speaker. I have to sincerely and completely disagree with my honourable colleague. When it comes to defending Israel, when it comes to defending a two-state solution in the Middle East, Canada has been there and we have been firm in that commitment. When it comes to defending and seeking justice and transparency for the victims of the Iranian plane crash, Canada has been there, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Canada has not compromised on our values, and in fact, we continue to lead with them day in and day out. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, I remember why now. The reason is it perfectly shows the two different ways to look at this whole thing, right? Pierre Polievere and the Conservatives and anybody who's thinking in a conservative mindset looks at the cost, looks at Justin Trudeau's actions, and not the rhetoric, his actions, and says, here's what we see. And Pierre Polievere laid it out with, Justin Trudeau went and bowed to Iran, went and made all these missteps, and squandered this money. We didn't get anything out of this money. We were told we were spending this money for influence at the UN to be able to sit across from Putin, blah, 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 to quote Trudeau. but we spent all this money and we got nothing for it. And lining the pockets of Middle Eastern dictators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Ms. Telford says, oh, well, we're supporting the LGBTQ community in those places. Do you think she really believes that? Like, really? I don't know if she does. And we're creating diplomacy in South American countries, and we're doing this. Her basic she's coming from, the place where she's coming from is that it's worth spending that money anyway because those things needed to be done, and we should be doing them because we're good people. That's her point, right? And Polievere's point is, you sold us X and we got not X, we got nothing. And now you're saying we should have done it anyway. If you're saying that you should have done it anyway, then you should have led with that. You should have been honest with the electorate, right? We're going to do this anyway. But regardless, it was expensive. And the fact that the government will virtue signal, will waltz the conversation away enough that the whole video I made to talk about the fact that they don't answer questions has me yelling and screaming about the virtue signaling and the difference between the conservative viewpoint, the center right viewpoint, the fiscally responsible, in my opinion, viewpoint, and the viewpoint of Canada should be going around the world and spreading our post-nationalist woke ideology through taxpayer dollars in a pursuit to buy influence, which failed both times in the last decade, right? 2010, 2020. And I mean, I've never seen a country more happy to fail at getting, or more happy to not get a UN seat than Canada. Like, really, they're all over my Twitter. I've seen people just super happy we didn't get it, and very few people saying, "Oh man, we really tried hard, we really deserved it," and it's terrible that these other countries got it and we should have got it. Like, there's not a lot of sour grapes. Nobody cared. The only people who cared are these people. And I think that if they can't answer questions, if they can't defend what they're talking about to the conservative mindset, to the opposition, because the opposition represents a lot of Canadians, right? And instead insult and distract, and it's a magician, right? Look here, not down here, right? Where I'm doing the trick, right? It's crazy, and it's unbelievably offensive to have a government that will not answer questions. Unbelievably offensive. So, well, this short video turned out to be much longer than I anticipated, and I still have like 10 tabs. I was going to do like another video after this. There's information about the Nova Scotia shooter. Anyway, there's lots of stuff going on in Canada, but I'll leave it here. The government does not answer questions, and they should. They should. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, and check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.